good to see we have a full class today.
Yeah. Alright, Mom, I'm about to call you back.
Well, I was going to teach y'all about dopamine today, but since not a lot of y'all showed up, why don't I just show you with my time machine? Let's go. Dopamine is a chemical made by our body and is used as a hormone and neurotransmitter that plays a role in how we feel and perceive pleasure. Dopamine is received by our nervous system at sites called DRD4 receptors. There are 3 types of DRD4 genes, the gene that encodes for the dopamine receptors. These 3 include the 2R, 4R, and 7R alleles, with the 4R allele being the most common. Studies have shown that the 7R allele is associated with high levels of activity and ADHD.
In David Epstein's book, The Sports Gene, he proposes that those with the 7R allele of the DRD4 gene are more commonly found in groups of nomadic people compared to settled populations. In a 2008 study, 2 groups of Kenyan tribesmen were genetically tested for identifying which dopamine receptor they possessed, one group being migratory and the other settled. The studies showed that the DRD4 7R allele was only amongst the nomadic people. Furthermore, those with the 7R allele were less malnourished due to a more active lifestyle imposed by the 7R allele.
All right, this is my time machine. Alright, so now that we're back in time, we're going to be looking for 2 groups of people, nomadic and settled. And we're going to get blood samples for each of them. Okay, so nomads have been shown to kind of like show up around this area, so we're just going to kind of search around and look for one. Oh, I think I see one right over there. All right, Allie, get down, get down. All right, he's coming right around the corner. You see him? All right, get him, get him, get him, get him, get him. All right, you got the blood sample?
Yeah.
All right, let's keep moving. All right, Allie, I think we found ourselves a little settled guy over here. You see him over there?
Oh, yeah.
All right, let's go get him. All right, let's get out of here. All right, let's head back to the future.
Okay, so just like our test said, then the migratory population tested positive for the 7 repeat allele that codes for ADHD.
Exactly, yeah. So it's believed that if you have ADHD, you're more closely related to these nomadic people than you are the settlers. So,
Cool.
yep.
Dopamine and dopamine receptors play an important role in attention and are therefore a focal point for studying attention disorders such as attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or ADHD, substance dependencies, and impulsive behaviors. The human dopamine receptor gene, DRD4, is located at the end of chromosome 11, and compared to most of our genes, it exhibits an unusual amount of variation. More specifically, it contains a 48 base pair variable number tandem repeat in the 3rd exon that is repeated between 2 and 11 times. The most common variations being 2, 4, and 7 repeats. The 7 repeat allele has been reported to code for a receptor with lower affinity for dopamine and could be responsible for ADHD, dependencies, alcoholism, and impulsive behavior. In a recent study, 133 children ages 6 to 13 were tested for the 7 repeat allele. These children were then given tests known to be associated with attention, impulsive control, and response inhibition. It's found that the children who had the 7 repeat allele had significantly more incorrect responses and a shorter mean reaction time than the children that did not have the allele. But having ADHD isn't such a bad thing after all. According to the Children and Adults with Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorders, or CHADD, ADHD may be more common in elite athletes than the general population. In fact, common symptoms of ADHD may even enhance athletic performance. According to CHADD, Many children with ADHD were reported to hyperfocus on their own enjoyable activities without being distracted by external responsibilities. Michael Phelps, perhaps one of the most well-known Olympic swimmers, was diagnosed with ADHD as a child and has never included medication as a part of his treatment for the disorder. After being involved with swimming, he found the lifestyle that helped him cope with his symptoms.
I'm an Olympic champion and I have ADHD. Growing up, I was somebody who was always constantly bouncing off the wall. I could never sit still. If I could go back in time and tell my younger self something, I would tell him to believe what's in his heart and never ever give up.
Let's start by breaking it down and talk about how ADHD exhibits itself.
Well, all of ADHD that we always hear about is from the observational standpoint, because there is no testing other than observational that says that this person is actually gifted with that thing we call ADHD, which gives them the ability to hyperfocus or multitask. When they're really into what they're doing, like Michael is when he was swimming, he could hyper-focus into it. He could go into what we used to call the zone. And then he would perform, and that extra energy, that extra ability to focus, all the gifts that come with ADHD kicked in and made him make history.
As a result of having the 7-repeat allele, Phelps may have experienced trouble in the classroom, but ADHD did not put him at a disadvantage in the pool. He was able to focus his energy into a lifestyle that suited his genetic predisposition. This foundation could even be the main contributor to many of his athletic accomplishments.